If you are a Scorpio, there is a very specific, undeniable shift that happens to you in the quietest, darkest moments of the night, and you have never quite known how to explain it to anyone else. It is a profound, magnetic longing without a physical address, a heavy psychic absence that you feel deep within your bones, but which simply does not have a clear earthly name. It is a haunting. It feels exactly as if someone who has left this physical realm is still desperately trying to reach out to you, to touch the edges of your aura, and you, for some deeply ingrained, mysterious reason that you do not even fully understand yourself, are still listening. You are still waiting in the dark, keeping the emotional channels wide open. This message is about that exact unseen connection, but I must warn you right now, it is not unfolding in the way you are imagining. This is not a video about generic, surface-level consolation. It is not about the cliché signs of eternal love, like finding a feather on the ground or seeing a repeating number on a clock. It is about something much darker, much deeper, much more psychologically intense, and profoundly more disturbing than that. Everyone out there in the world thinks they know what a Scorpio is. They see the armor. They see the undeniable intensity, the piercing gaze, the deadly stinger, the shadow energy, and the unyielding magnetic presence that commands any room you enter. They think your mystery is a weapon. They think your silence is a game. But there is a hidden subterranean layer to the Scorpio soul that almost no one is ever permitted to see. The intense, burning, emotional fire of a Scorpio did not actually start with you. That immense psychic weight, that overwhelming emotional venom, and that staggering capacity for obsession and loyalty. It was inherited. It belonged, long before you took your first breath, to someone in your lineage who could not survive their own intensity. It belonged to an ancestor, a beloved family member, who could not burn their karmic fire to the very end. And that someone is gone now, having crossed the veil, but they left their unhealed emotional flame, their unresolved trauma, and their unmet soulmate desires entirely with you. The relative who is currently existing in heaven, who is actively trying to cross the boundary of the afterlife to warn you, is not sending you a simple, comforting message of divine protection. They are sending you a devastating confession. And as you allow these words to wash over your spirit, you will quickly understand that the spiritual warning completely shatters and fundamentally changes how you understand every single ounce of pain, love, and emotional baggage you have carried up until this exact moment. Stay here with me, deeply present this energy, because what is coming next is the exact visceral truth you have been starving to hear for much longer than you even realize. Astrology will vaguely tell you that Pluto rules Scorpio. You have probably heard the endless descriptions of Pluto as the planet of death, the underworld, the hidden taboos, and the ultimate destruction. But what you are rarely told, what is deliberately hidden in the esoteric layers of true astrological bloodlines, is what Pluto truly represents in the genetic architecture of your family tree. Pluto is not just personal transformation. Pluto is not just your individual dark feminine or divine masculine energy. Pluto represents the unbroken, unyielding karmic chain of ancestral trauma. It is the deep, dark secrets of the grandfather. It is the silent, weeping heartbreak of the mother. It is the blood-soaked lineage of people who came before you, who either managed to alchemize their darkest emotional pain or completely failed to heal it, carelessly passing that terrifying psychic responsibility directly onto you. When a Scorpio is born into a family, they do not arrive as a blank slate. They arrive as the designated karmic cleaner. Think about this deeply for a second. Let it resonate in your chest. Have you ever had that specific haunting type of dream where you see someone who has passed away, and the dream is not foggy or distant, but intensely, horrifyingly real? The colors are vivid. The temperature in the room drops. You can physically smell their scent. It is so visceral that when your eyes finally snap open, the absolute first thing you feel in your body is not peace, and it is certainly not relief. It is a crushing silence, suffocating pain, as if the traumatizing farewell had just happened all over again in real time. It feels as if that departed soul was physically trying to pull you into their realm. and the dream was simply the only psychic window they had left available to bridge the gap. This type of intense, spirit-led experience is absolutely never random for a Scorpio. It is never just a coincidence. There is a deeply rooted ancestral reason for that haunting, and it begins generations before the tragic moment you actually lost that person in the physical world. It begins in the very spiritual architecture of what it actually means to be a Scorpio born into that specific karmic lineage. It is woven into that specific family dynamic, embedded in that chaotic current of love, betrayal, and heritage that forcefully dragged your soul into existence. Most people who cross paths with a Scorpio assume they have you completely figured out. They see the undeniable brilliance, the almost terrifying depth of your generosity, the obsessive, all-consuming intensity with which you are capable of loving someone, and the utterly agonizing way you suffer when you do not receive that exact same divine proportion of loyalty back from them. They look at your pain and they hastily conclude that you are just jealous, possessive, paranoid, or overly complicated. But what if their shallow interpretation is completely, fundamentally wrong? What if the intense emotional fire that you carry in your chest did not even begin with you? What if someone, at some tragic point in your ancestral lineage, could not finish their own spiritual evolution? What if they could not face their own shadows, and instead they passed that dark, heavy, karmic flame onto you without a single warning, without ever asking for your soul's permission? What if that beloved relative who is now in heaven, whom you sometimes feel creeping up behind you in places you cannot even name, manifesting in a sudden change of air pressure in an object that suddenly moves out of place, or in a dark, heavy thought that clearly did not originate in your own mind, is desperately trying to reach you right now, precisely because they know exactly what emotional hell you are carrying? They are reaching out because they are the one who actively allowed that burden to crush you. It is absolutely no coincidence that this deep, unsettling thought has returned to haunt your mind right now. It is divine timing orchestrated by the universe that you are sitting here locked into these words, feeling the truth of this resonance. There is a precise mechanical law to this psychic connection between a Scorpio and the ghosts of their past loves and departed family. It is a spiritual mechanism that operates far beyond what the basic, surface-level astrology you read on the internet usually shows. But before I can drag you further down into the depths of that underworld with me, I need to ask you a question that will pierce your armor. It is a question that might cause a severe physical discomfort in your gut, and it is precisely that visceral discomfort that will boldly confirm if this intense transmission is genuinely meant for your soul. If Scorpio loves so fiercely, if you protect so many people with your life, if you endure so much psychological warfare, and if you offer a loyalty that defies human comprehension, then why, when the true, suffocating silence of the night finally arrives, does it always feel like a massive piece of your soul is missing? Why does your emotional fire have the power to transform the entire world, but sometimes, in your most vulnerable moments, it feels like it absolutely cannot warm your own freezing heart? This question has lingered like a ghost in your mind for a reason, and that is because the true answer is buried deep below the surface of your conscious mind. You have likely already searched for this answer in 1,000 different places, in toxic soulmate connections and temporary obsessions, in late-night esoteric deep dives, and you have not found it because it does not exist in what Scorpio shows to the outside world. The answer lives exclusively in what Scorpio carries in total silence, hidden in the dark, utterly isolated from any audience or witness. It was during my own obsessive descent into the depths of ancestral astrology and spiritual awakening that I uncovered the existence of this digital book, the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. And what this specific manuscript does for the deeply complex Scorpio soul is not just regurgitate who you are. It acts as a psychic mirror. It violently pulls back the curtain to show you exactly what hidden, rotting burdens you are carrying within you. It separates the emotional DNA. It reveals what inside of your heart is genuinely, beautifully yours, and what dark energy was forced upon you through a karmic blood current you never once asked to inherit. It treats this dark ancestral Scorpio fire with the absolute reverence and terrifying seriousness it actually deserves. It does not treat your intensity as a toxic burden that needs to be medicated or dropped. but as a profound spiritual inheritance that must be alchemized and integrated. It teaches you the vital difference between carrying the dark out of blind, trauma-bonded loyalty and radiating your own true magnetic power, because that is who you authentically are at your core. You are standing at a very specific, dangerous crossroads of divine timing right now. You are still vibrating with the recognition of that truth that just hit you. You are still holding that active, burning question in your mind. You still have the sacred name of that someone you loved so deeply and lost so tragically, circulating like a phantom in your bloodstream. This is exactly the raw, vulnerable, psychologically open state in which this message holds its most explosive power. Not tomorrow. Not when you have numbed the pain again. Now, while the ghost of that memory is still breathing on your neck, while that frustrating sensation of an incomplete spiritual message is still vibrating within your chest, this is your destined moment to act. The link to this profound awakening is pinned in the first comment below. But you must be acutely aware. This esoteric knowledge is highly sensitive, and this content may disappear from the algorithm. Click the link right now and download your copy to begin the alchemy. And while you are stepping into that portal, I need you to leave a piece of your truth in the comments. Tell me, have you ever woken up screaming, crying, or completely paralyzed from a dream about a family member who crossed over? Feeling with every cell in your body that the encounter was entirely too real to just be a trick of your sleeping brain? Drop your confession below. I want to read the raw truth of your experience. Let me finally unveil what the most ancient shadowy astrology reveals about the true nature of Scorpio. Something that transcends the dark aesthetic, the revenge stereotypes, and the beautiful, intimidating mask that the world is forced to look at. In every single bloodline, there is always one soul who is elected to carry the darkness, to process the karmic poison, and to hold the unspoken secrets for everyone else. You know exactly what this brutal role feels like. In some families, it is the matriarch. In others, it is the black sheep. It is always that one specific member no one else can fully understand. Yet somehow, in their darkest moments, everyone magnetically gravitates toward them to dump their emotional garbage without ever being able to explain why. In any family tree that possesses a strong, unevolved Plutonian signature, this agonizing role sooner or later falls directly onto the shoulders of the Scorpio. And the tragedy is, you never consciously chose this. It simply happened to you. The profound, aching longing that you feel every night, the deep sadness that doesn't quite have a rational name, originates right here in this specific psychic wound. It is the subconscious longing for a time when this massive emotional flame was not your sole responsibility to guard. There is an ancestral memory buried in your DNA of a time when the person who originally generated this intense energy was still alive to sustain it. You desperately missed the era when you were still young and energetically pure enough to simply receive their love and warmth without having to constantly metabolize their toxic pain and project strength for everyone around you. But there was a definitive, timeline-altering moment, perhaps a trauma you cannot even pinpoint on a calendar, when the energetic roles completely reversed. Someone crossed over and their massive, unresolved karmic flame needed a new host to keep it alive in the physical realm. And you, Scorpio, because of the undeniable depth of your soul, because of your profound psychic sensitivity, and because of the terrifying intensity with which you feel love, willingly took on that agonizing responsibility without anyone ever needing to beg you. The universe needs you to understand right now, this is not a weakness. It is not foolishness. It is in fact the ultimate testament to Scorpio's most dangerous and least understood superpower, the godlike capacity to absorb the decaying, toxic pain of an entire lineage, drag it down into your own personal underworld, and desperately try to alchemize it into presence, protection, and fierce loyalty for the people you love. The catastrophic problem, and this is precisely where the spiritual warfare becomes deadly, is that this internal alchemy demands a devastating toll. It drains your life force. And a true Scorpio will almost never speak a single word about this cost to anyone. You will rarely even admit the depth of the exhaustion to yourself as you bleed out in the dark. This leads us to the ultimate warning from the other side. When that departed soul watches you from the spiritual realm, they do not just see you living your life. They see you slowly suffocating under the weight of their unresolved history. When a soul is heavily influenced by Scorpio energy, the ancestral transmission is not subtle. It is incredibly volatile. It is flammable. It physically burns in your nervous system. You did not just inherit your grandmother's eyes or your father's temper. You inherited their unspoken rage. You inherited the deep, hidden sexual traumas of your lineage. You inherited the dreams they were too paralyzed by fear to pursue. Imagine that someone in your bloodline possessed a beautiful, raw, untamed essence that they were forced to hide from the world because of shame or societal rules. A version of themselves they had to ruthlessly bury alive. The trapped, suffocated energy does not just gracefully evaporate into the ether when their physical heart stops beating. It survives. It violently circulates through the karmic bloodline, desperately hunting for a new vessel to finally complete its manifestation. And unfortunately for you, it found the Scorpio. That is exactly why you often feel a dark, obsessive ambition that seems entirely too massive for just one lifetime. You feel a desperate, clawing urgency to experience a soulmate connection that transcends human reality. A need for a love so deep it consumes you, because it is not just your personal desire. It is the unfulfilled, starving desire of your ancestors screaming through your veins. The departed family member who visits you in the silence of the night sees this tragic cycle. They see you carrying their cross, and their warning to you is absolutely not what you have been conditioned to believe. When most people imagine receiving a message from heaven, they picture soft, angelic comfort. I am at peace, don't cry. But for Scorpio, dealing with this heavy Plutonian karma, the message is aggressive, it is urgent, and it is brutally challenging. What they want to scream at you from across the veil is not just that they love you. They know your psychic intuition already confirms that. What they are desperately trying to tell you is this: you are carrying my darkness, thinking it is the only way to prove your loyalty to my memory, and it is destroying you. Take a deep breath and let that sink into your core. The idea that honoring someone might actually require you to completely detach and let go of the emotional pain you have guarded for decades goes against every single obsessive, loyal instinct in the Scorpio anatomy. For Scorpio, abandoning a psychic connection always feels like a betrayal. Relinquishing someone's pain feels deep down in your shadow self, like you are abandoning them in the underworld, erasing the final concrete trace of their existence. And that is why you stay. That is why you suffer. You remain the fiercely loyal guardian of a grave that has been empty for years. You continue to bleed out in the name of the departed, entirely failing to realize that by doing so, you are violently neglecting your own divine destiny. You are maintaining their ghost, while your own brilliant magnetic presence slowly starves to death. This obsessive pattern of holding on to the trauma of another is the single most exhausting poison in your spiritual ecosystem. This is what the spirit realm is demanding you to interrupt, not because your devotion is flawed. Your devotion is the most breathtakingly beautiful force in the universe, but because there is a massive difference between carrying someone in your heart with love and carrying someone's karma instead of living your own life. Letting go of their pain does not kill the love. It is the highest, most evolved form of dark alchemy you can perform. How do you release an obsession that has morphed into your core identity? You must separate the poison from the medicine. The digital book linked below, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, is the exact esoteric key designed to help the Scorpio soul sever these toxic karmic cords. It provides the spiritual scalpel needed to separate your genuine, divine power from the rotting ancestral baggage you were tricked into carrying. It is the roadmap to your ultimate rebirth. When you finally stop operating as the emotional dumping ground for the dead, an incredible transformation occurs. Your own authentic Scorpio fire ignites. It is seductive, incredibly powerful, and entirely free of the desperate urgency of the past. Your true magnetic aura will suddenly burst forth, vibrating at a frequency that effortlessly attracts the true, fated soulmate connection you've been crying out for. Because you are no longer blocked by the ghosts of your lineage. You have carried their way long enough. You have paid the karmic debt. You have suffered beautifully in the name of something greater than yourself. But the contract is now officially terminated. The relative in heaven is silent now, watching with awe, completely stepping back so that you can finally claim your own absolute power. You know exactly what that true, untamed power feels like. You have always secretly known. Now, my beautiful, intense Scorpio, you finally have the universe's permission to let it consume you. Rise from the ashes.